Hey everyone, welcome to Taking the Pulse, a healthcare and life sciences video podcast. I am Heather Hoops Matthews here in our studio in South Carolina today, being joined first by Lauren DeMoss, a healthcare attorney with Maynard Nexsen in our Birmingham, Alabama office. Lauren, good to be with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Heather. Great to be here today.
And we are delighted to have our guest today be Andy Willis. He is the Executive Chief Planning and Development Officer of North Carolina Children's, the new freestanding independent children's healthcare system that UNC Health and Duke Health are partnering to create and build. This will take place in Wake County, but the healthcare system will serve children across the state. Andy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Heather and Lauren. It's great to be with you from North Carolina.
This is an exciting news development that I've been following in the paper. To start us off first, tell us a little bit about your background and then how you got yourself joining the team of North Carolina Children's.
Well, thank you again for including us today and kind of bringing this to your viewers. And this is an exciting topic, not just for UNC Health and Duke University Health, but for the state of North Carolina. I'm a non-traditional healthcare executive. I've been with UNC Health for about 12 to 13 years now. I came over after a stint as the state budget director for the state of North Carolina, and I've worked in the university setting for the state of North Carolina for a long time. I served as chief of staff to several chancellors at NC State University, and with the university system, working in the government affairs arena, but also kind of being an administrator in the state budget office. But in the last 12 years, I've been at healthcare. UNC Health is known as the state of North Carolina's healthcare system. So we're a very externally public-facing institution for the state of North Carolina, and we provide care for any citizen, regardless of the ability to pay. But I've worked in a number of arenas in external affairs, communications, philanthropy, finance, mergers and acquisitions. And 2 years ago, when the state of North Carolina provided a seed funding of $320 million for this project, our CEO and leader, Dr. Wesley Burks, asked if I would step away from that role and take a role for the next few years to kind of lead this project as, I would say, a startup type company, to secure additional funding, begin to get our philanthropy started, choose a site, and most excitingly work with Duke University to develop a long-standing partnership on how we were going to take care of the clinical needs of the children of North Carolina in a way that's not been done in the past. So been doing that for 2.5 years now, and I'm assembling a team and beginning to work on all those mighty tasks we've got to do. We've got a long ways to go, but we're happy to get started.
Andy, you mentioned that they approached you, over 2 years ago. So this project's clearly been in the works for a while. Can you share with us some of the kind of major milestones or turning points that led to the partnership between Duke and UNC Health and what's really kind of brought this to life?
Yeah, so Lauren, thank you. This is not, it's a new project in the public arena. But Duke and UNC have talked about, we're 15 miles apart. We have similar sized pediatric programs at both of our adult hospital systems, 160 to 170 beds. The book of business is about the same amount. But we have been talking about pediatric care and doing something together jointly, actually for the last decade. We had some ebbs and flows in those discussions. When the pandemic hit in 2020, we took a step back. Both teams did because we had to focus on other things. We did come back together, and that was after the legislature, the North Carolina General Assembly, funded this initial funding to UNC Health. We decided, and Duke as our partner, that we could do this better together. Two proud and very research extensive and intensive institutions that provide a high level of acuity care for the children of the state. It didn't make sense for us to build a hospital in Chapel Hill and them not be a part of it, or them to build one in Durham and have to compete against it, each other. So we did come together and it took us about 8 months to get a definitive agreement pulled together, which is miraculous as you all know, in the healthcare industry. But it was because I think the stars were aligned, the mission was aligned, taking care of the children in North Carolina. This is a little funny, we're dealing with a bunch of pediatricians. So the good is always there. The focus on the mission was always there. We have UNC Health. Our leader is Dr. Wesley Burks, a world-renowned pediatric researcher. Duke's leader of Duke University Health is Dr. Craig Albanese, a world-renowned pediatric surgeon. So we had all the right parts together from a leadership standpoint to kind of pull this together and make sure we could get it done. That was kind of milestone one. And then we began to scope the project and what it would look like, how big it would be, what we needed as far as financing and funding, how we would approach together. Complex project, as you all know, merging of faculties. You got two faculties that are two different institutions. How are we going to do that? But all towards that mission of serving the children in North Carolina and beyond. I mean, this will be a national hospital, as you all both know. So those are some of the milestones. We've selected a site in the last 2 to 3 weeks, and we're beginning to work on those other things now that will take a little bit longer time.
Well, your background helping to write the state's budget of North Carolina is certainly going to help you in this massive effort. You mentioned that the state had earmarked some money, and then in your intro, I heard you say that you were looking at other funding sources. Could you tell us how this project will be funded?
Yes, so this is, for all intents and purposes, it's a $3 billion construction project, and it has several components in phase one. We wanted a large campus because eventually in phase two, we will bring pediatric research off of Duke and UNC's campuses in Chapel Hill and Durham to this campus. So it will not only be just a clinical operation, it will have a research operation in stage two. So we needed an adequate amount of property. A $3 billion project. We have intended to fund that with $1 billion in public support. The legislature of North Carolina has graciously provided $320 million in initial funding for that. Got a long ways to go. We have agreed that we will raise over $1 billion, $1.5 billion is kind of our internal goal for philanthropic. And then we'll go to the debt markets for the other $800 to $1 billion that we'll need to kind of fund the project. We do have a financially sustainable model. Duke and UNC will be contributing their books of business in the pediatric field to this institution from an operational standpoint of about $500 million each on an annual basis. We will take those component units out of Duke and Chapel Hill and put them in the new hospital. So it is financially operational and will not need support from the state for that, nor will it need ongoing financial support from the parent institutions. So a lot to go. This is a 6 to 7 year long construction project minimum. There's three major components. Out of the ground first, we will be building a 100-bed mental health hospital for adolescents. North Carolina is one of the few states in the country that does not have an acute care mental health facility for the children of the state. That was part of the agreement with the state of North Carolina. So that will come out as a separate facility, but on the campus, then an ambulatory surgery center, as well as a physician office building, and then the 500 to 550 bed acute care specialty hospital, much like you see at some of the other freestanding children's hospitals around the country. So 6 to 8 years total construction once we start in 2027. It'll take us that long to get the permitting and the design. So the main hospital would not open until 2032, 2033 is our thoughts at this point in time.
That's a huge undertaking. And I keep thinking, Heather and Andy, if we build it, they will come, kind of mindset. But, and I know it's down the road, but it has to be something maybe you're already thinking about today, given kind of the workforce challenges that are in the healthcare industry, kind of coming off of COVID and continuing, has some thought been given to staffing the different parts of the system, the initial hospital and then the other pieces of it?
So yes, you hit the nail on the head, though. The good news is we've got a little time to figure that out, but not a lot of time. As you both know, pediatricians that are graduating from medical schools around the country, sadly, we're not having enough people go into that field of medical service. In fact, there's a lot of pediatric residencies across the country that are going unfilled every year. We've not had that at Duke and UNC, but other institutions in North Carolina have trouble filling their pediatric residencies because most of those folks that want to go into that field for a specialty, they want to go work at a freestanding children's hospital. They do not want to work in a children's hospital that is embedded in an adult system. So we see that as an attraction to this type of facility. Of course, we'll have our residencies here that will go there. It will be a teaching hospital. Duke will have their residencies and fellows that will combine and make a very powerful piece on that front. On the allied health professions, which is one that we worry about actually more than probably the pediatricians. One other side note, as you all know, finding a pediatric mental health specialist is almost impossible in the United States. So that's one we do have to try to figure out. We do have a prominent psychiatric department at UNC that is ranked number 2 or 3 in the country in research funding, has been for years, and a large pediatric presence there, but we will work with them to figure out how we're going to do that. But on the allied health side, this campus, we're on a 225-acre campus, but a much larger development that's over 1,000 acres. Wake Technical Community College is building a branch campus on this site, and Wake Tech, which is a prominent, one of the largest community colleges, if not the largest in the state of North Carolina, will have an allied health focus there, as well as a biotech focus. There's been other biotech companies that have located within 5 miles of this site: Fujifilm, Gentech, Amgen, and some others. So they originally put the campus there to help with supply chain in those facilities as pharmaceutical companies that have come. But now they've agreed in the next 2 to 3 years, they will begin to construct an allied health profession campus there for nurses, other techs that we will need for the campus, which is wonderful. That's not only a partnership that we're going to have with 2 of the great universities of North Carolina, but we'll have a very clear partnership with that community college that will help with that workforce production.
Wow, that's really exciting. And you've alluded to where all of this is happening, your $3 billion project, and then the tech schools. And this is in Apex, North Carolina. Tell us why Apex.
So Apex is about 15 miles from city center of Raleigh, south of Raleigh. It's a fast growing area of Wake County. I don't know the statistics right off the hand, but Wake County's always been, in the last 10 years, considered one of the top 5 growing counties in the United States. It serves as the anchor of the Research Triangle Park. But a lot of the growth is happening in southern Wake County. The reason we chose Apex, first of all, we looked at over 20 sites around the Greater Triangle area. One thing we did do a handshake on with Duke, we would not put it in each other's backyards. So we didn't want this in Chapel Hill. We didn't want it necessarily in Durham, 2 or 3 miles from the main campus, because it would defeat the purpose of the collaboration. But we did do this through a competitive economic development type process, because it's a huge economic development project. And we also wanted a community that wanted us. I mean, you're talking about a large campus, 15 to 17,000 cars that will come in and out of the campus every day. So you had to have a community that wanted that type of growth. And one thing that this area of the Triangle is now becoming the biotech hub. I mentioned those 3 new firms that have located there in the last 5 to 6 years, employing thousands of people. we were excited to be there because of the research aspect. This will be a huge clinical trial operating facility once we put the research institutions there as well. So we were welcomed with open arms. Apex is it's the peak of good living for the state of North Carolina. It's been voted numerous times as one of the best places to live in the state of North Carolina from a small town. So we're happy to be there, but the growth that's coming around there, and you go back to workforce, they have relatively affordable housing compared to other parts of the triangle, whether it's Cary, Raleigh, or Chapel Hill, or Durham. That's changing, so we'll have to address that. But the transportation infrastructure is good. The water and sewer infrastructure is good. The power supply is very good at this site. And it just kind of all worked together for us.
Andy, you mentioned economic development, and obviously bringing, healthcare services to children and adolescents is an obvious piece of it. But what are kind of the other aspects of economic development that the system will bring?
So this will bring 8,400 direct jobs, new net direct jobs, once we open the doors of all the facilities. About 10,000 indirect construction jobs over the next 10 to 12 years, talking from today. Close to 800 million in direct annual wages. This makes this one of the top 3 economic development projects in the state of North Carolina over the last 25 to 30 years. It's only been surpassed by, we're having a huge Toyota lithium battery plant that is being built in Asheboro. And then recently, the governor and the legislative leadership announced a new facility that's going to be manufacturing jet airplanes in Greensboro, North Carolina. But this ranks number 3rd. And as far as wages, direct impact, it will generate, even though it's a nonprofit corporation, over $1.1 billion to the state's general fund over 20 years. So it makes good economic sense. I mean, we're in it for the clinical piece, but we felt like we had to explain what the economics of this would be. As you all know, freestanding children's hospitals around the country are, you hate to use healthcare like this, but they're economic engines because people go there and they stay, unfortunately, for weeks, if not months at a time for the care of a child. So hotels, everything else kind of builds up around those facilities. So it's a great economic impact for the state of North Carolina as well as the region.
And those projects you mentioned, Jet Zero, Toyota, I mean, they're going to have impacts, waves of impacts across the state. And I'm sure your project will as well. How do you see it changing North Carolina Children's? How do you see North Carolina Children's changing the landscape of healthcare for the North Carolina state?
Well, right now we have 9 embedded children's hospitals in the state that are a part of an adult system. They all provide wonderful care. But unfortunately, our state sends more children out of the state of North Carolina for care than any other state in the country when it comes to acute care specialty. You all know that we are, depending on the statistics you look at, we're number 9th in population. By 2050, we'll be number 5th or 6th in population in the country. We think our citizens frankly deserve a lot better. They should not need to go out of state for care, and they need to get care closer to home. We have no intentions of harming the other hospitals that are there, the care that's provided there, but we want them to send those very sick children to us, to North Carolina Children's, to kind of help with that cure. We've had wonderful responses from some of our other partners that are not a part of the definitive agreement, but we'll be working with those institutions over the next year to year and a half to bring them on board. We think it will help rural North Carolina immensely. We have the 2nd largest rural population in the country behind Texas. And right now, that care in North Carolina is sporadic at best in pediatrics. We still lag the country in most pediatric health outcomes. 46th in infant mortality rate, and we're a top 10 state. That's deplorable. So part of we don't say North Carolina Children's Hospital, we say North Carolina Children's Health, is our goal is, it's part of the mission of University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and Duke's joined us now, is to improve all the health of the children. So that means working with pediatricians around the state, family physicians around the state to kind of improve that health care, but try to do it rather than someone having to fly to the Northeast and spend months at a time up there, where they can get closer to us. Where for all practical purposes, we're in the center of the state. It's 150 to 225 miles away from the far west and the far east. This will be a powerful institution, though, that will bring folks from out of North Carolina here as well. Outside of our friends at Children's Hospital Atlanta and National Children's at DC, we will be the largest, even with those two, largest academic children's hospital in the southeastern United States. So we think outside of Texas and St. Jude's a little bit, but we will command from your home state of South Carolina and Tennessee and Virginia. Our market will go way beyond just the state of North Carolina, but our focus is on the people and citizens of North Carolina.
Andy, as we kind of wrap up today, I'm curious kind of what's on your to-do list, or what are kind of how do the next few years look in terms of bringing this to reality? And I ask about your to-do list. I'm sure it's fairly lengthy, but in your mind, kind of what are the big next steps?
Big next steps. We have quietly started our philanthropy work. Children's hospitals around the country are typically very philanthropic organizations. We have done a case study and done some casework that we're confident we'll be able to raise the $1 billion to $1.5 billion, but we got to get that started. Corporate North Carolina is beginning to get behind the project because it's a good public-private partnership, so that'll take a lot of time and energy. We've issued a RFQ, and we will go to the RFP process for construction and design in the next 12 months, and that's I think right now, you're going to quote me because you're videoing this, but this is outside of the children's hospital being built in Dallas. This is probably the largest healthcare project in the United States that's ongoing right now. So we've had a lot of interest in how we're going to construct this. I think one of the challenges is this is a hospital that's going to open 10 years from now, 7, 8 to 10 years from now. How do we plan for what healthcare looks like 10 years from a technology standpoint, from a construction standpoint, and stay kind of cutting edge, but not bleeding cutting edge? And so those are some of the things we're working towards. Always working and pulling two faculties together is going to be where the real work begins, and the exciting work, determining what specialties we're going to be world class in, and how we're going to bring them there. I mean, the most exciting selling point we can make to our funders is if you combine Duke and UNC today and put us together without any growth, we rank number 3 in the country as far as the freestanding children's hospitals just today, because of the research prowess at Duke and the research prowess at Chapel Hill and our clinical footprint. So immediately when we open the door, we'll be in the top 5 children's hospitals in the country from a research standpoint and hopefully a cure standpoint. But how do we do that smart over the next 10 years and make sure we focus on the things we need to focus on? Academic institutions, as you all know, they like to focus on everything. But I think we're going to have to be disciplined and determine what we become very good at. Some like our partners in the Northeast, Nationwide, Boston Children's, CHOP, as well as Texas Children's, they focus on some things that are very good. What can we focus on to kind of complement that around the country?
Well, Andy, you have a Mount Everest of an opportunity to really change the legacy of North Carolina serving children. And it's exciting to hear about. Lauren, I don't think Andy will be doing much sleeping over the next 6 or 7 years. But
I don't know. We'll see if I make it with all this white hair.
I look forward, though, to having you back along the way. Because of that long runway, it will be nice to continue to check in as things evolve, right? Because I'm sure it's a living document. As you noted, healthcare is changing. So we'll see what's on the horizon and how you adapt for it.
Dramatically, and we're excited about it. And we're trying to get our word out as much as we can, not just internally to North Carolina, but around the country. It's one of the few projects I've worked on in my 30 plus years of public service that I've seen people begin to rally around. And as a true public good project that is going to serve the citizens, like North Carolina's done for a number of years through its university system and Research Triangle Park type of enterprises. So we're excited about it.
Well, Andy Willis, thank you so much for joining us today. Andy is the Chief Planning and Development Officer for North Carolina Children's, a $3 billion project that's just going to have a massive impact on the lives of little ones and their families across the Southeast and beyond. For those of you joining today, we hope you enjoyed this conversation on this exciting economic development project, and we look forward to seeing you next time right here on Taking the Pulse, a healthcare and life sciences video podcast.